Today we are talking Bizarro Jackie. So Bizarro Jackie is an 800-meter run followed by 50 thrusters at 45 pounds and 30 handstand push-ups. There are two ways that we can really attack this workout, and we'll talk about how to attack it in a push intensity zone at 70 to 80% of our max heart rate, and all out where we're working 80, 90% plus of our max heart rate. This workout is really going to be determined by the handstand push-ups. That is going to be the limiting factor for nearly everyone. The 800-meter run is manageable. You can get through that no problem, even if you scale it to a 600 or a 400. The 50 thrusters at 45, 35 empty barbell, again, not going to be a problem for most people. Where people are going to get stuck is going to be those handstand push-ups. So we really have two options as how we want to attack these handstand push-ups or how we want to scale them. And depending on which option we choose, it should inform the intensity that we approach the rest of the workout with. Okay, so let's say that you are somebody who wants to develop handstand push-ups. You might be able to do 2, 3 at a time, maybe 5, not fatigued, right? That is the key here, like not fatigued. And you want to continue to get better at developing handstand push-ups and strengthening that movement. That is not going to happen if you go all out on the first two movements. All right. If you go all out on the 800-meter run and try to go through the 50 thrusters as quickly as you can, the reps that you put forth in the handstand push-ups, they are not, for the majority of us, for the vast majority of us, right? We look at Vincent, that's going to be a different story, right? But for the majority of us, by the time you get to those handstand push-ups, you are going to be so wiped out. You're going to have so much lactic acid built up in your shoulders. Your heart is going to be pumping that it's going to be very difficult for you to string together any real quality sets of handstand push-ups. Okay. So if you are a person who wants to develop the handstand push-ups, all right, it means we have to manage everything else before we get there. So the way that you need to do that is you need to pace the run. If we're looking at zones and we start talking about this push zone or the 70 to 80% of our max heart rate, that is our lactate threshold zone, meaning that that is the place, right, that we work where our body can continuously clear lactate, all right, without falling behind. All right, that's the place where you can continue to move, and you're not going to get any like of that real muscular burn when you're feeling like just absolute death. All right. So in that 800-meter run, if you're looking at your heart rate, what you should be looking at is trying to stay in the middle of that zone 3, right? It's around 75%, somewhere between 70 and 75%. We don't want to get up close to 80% during the run because we need to understand that coming in, going on the thrusters are more than likely going to spike our heart rate, right? We're just switching. It's a different movement. It requires a little bit more motor patterning, right? It just has a weight implement to it. So it's going to spike our heart rate generally more than that run will. So on the run, you want to try and keep yourself at that 70 to 75%. Now, if we cannot finish the run in under like 5 to 6 minutes, that's fine. All we want you to do is go out in 3 minutes one way and 3 minutes back. But again, most people I think should be able to finish that 800-meter run around about 6 minutes if you're like really pacing it slowly. All right. Now coming back in, we go into those 50 thrusters. All right. Again, you should be feeling relatively fresh if you've paced out that run properly. So let's talk about the intent on the thrusters, because even if we've paced out that run, we can still burn ourselves out prior to the handstand push-ups if we just go all out on the thrusters. So when you come back in, you pick up the barbell, all right, we need to have some sort of rep scheme in mind, and we need to change the intent from trying to just go as fast as we can to making this about positioning, timing, breathing, right? Really taking note of like what your squat looks like at the bottom, making sure that as we come up and extend our hips, we're not pressing too early. We're actually getting that core to extremity factor that we're looking for, right? Where our hips are doing the majority of the work and our arms are just locking out. And then we're taking a big breath at the top and going into that next rep. Make these slower, right? Make these try and be like 50 perfect thrusters. Again, with this, you're probably going to have to take bigger breaks, and that's okay. if we want to work on handstand push-ups, then the goal should be to work on handstand push-ups, and that means we are just going to need to save ourselves for that. So if you go into those thrusters, we can maybe assign, if you can't get through 50 thrusters in 2 to 3 minutes, cap yourselves at 3 minutes wherever you are, right? Again, this workout, if you want to develop handstand push-ups, it should be about the handstand push-ups. All right. So now let's assume that we took 5 minutes for the run. We took 3 minutes for the thrusters. It's a 12-minute time cap. We now have 4 minutes, all right, solely dedicated to the handstand push-ups. And it should be 4 minutes where we are not completely zonked out, right? Our heart rate should be somewhat manageable right now. Our shoulders shouldn't be crazy fatigued because of how we approach those slow thrusters. So now you can go in and work on quality sets of those handstand push-ups, right? Maybe do something like every 30 seconds. Maybe you do 2 or 3 every 30 seconds, right? If you do 3 every 30 seconds for 4 minutes, you're going to get what, 6? You're going to get like 24. Check my math. I'm not a mathematician. I hate math. It's around 24 handstand push-ups, right? Which is pretty close to that 30, which would be very good. But the key is they're going to be quality handstand push-ups because you held back and you made the intent about actually progressing in handstand push-ups and not just trying to get the workout done as fast as you can. Let's go to the other side of the spectrum now. All right. If you want to just make this an all-out workout, really straightforward here, right? Where it's like the run, you're just going to go pretty much as hard as you can on that run. I would say that like when I come back in from the run, I don't want to be like 90% plus of my heart rate because that's going to make the rest of the workout really hard. You still have a good amount of reps left to complete, right? But maybe rather than staying at that 70 to 75% of your heart rate on the run, you're pushing 80%. Right, you're going to come in, you're going to be at the bottom of like the top of your zone 3, the bottom of your zone 4, still at a place where you can like really just kind of pick up that barbell and rip out a big fast set of thrusters. All right. So the difference between going like push and all out through the first run is like if you're gonna focus on the handstand push-ups and stay at that push pace the run, right? Go slower than you think. That's okay. If you're just gonna go all out, push the run, get up to around 80% of your max heart rate. When you come in for the thrusters, you're going to do big sets on those thrusters, really focusing on being explosive out of the bottom and ripping that bar down and going back into the bottom of the squat. Now let's talk about the handstand push-ups if you're going at an all-out pace. Because again, you can kind of see how this starts to compound, right? If I'm like working at that, 80% of my max heart rate for the run, and then I come in, I go straight to the thrusters, and I'm just going, ripping as hard as I can. My heart rate is going to stay 80% plus. I mean, you're probably going to get up and start touching 90. Think about how you feel, right, during those workouts when you're sprinting. Like your coordination is gone. You have trouble bracing. You have trouble breathing, right? Your heart is just pounding through your chest. Now think about how difficult it is to do a high skilled movement in that state. Now, if you want to just try a couple of handstand push-ups, right out the gate when you get done with those thrusters to see how they feel, absolutely go for it. But if we're going to go all out, right, because we really want to be working those upper limits of our intensity, do not allow yourself to just get stuck on the handstand push-ups because all that work that you did prior of going like really, really hard is just going to be a waste if we have to slow down and do like 1 to 2 shitty handstand push-ups, right, every 30 seconds because that's how fatigued we are. So after you get through that big set of thrusters, if you want to do a set of handstand push-ups, great. Go there, knock a few out, and then immediately go into something that's going to be lower skilled that can keep the pace high, right? So that might be dumbbell presses, that might be push-ups, right? But at that point, we don't want to slow down to work on a skill because at that point, like where your heart rate is so high and you're working at that intensity, there's no skill development going on. All you're doing is teaching yourself bad reps. So rather than teaching yourself bad reps, get a couple in if you really want to, but then go to something low skill. You're still going to be working on handstand push-ups, getting better at it because you're going to be working on muscular endurance, right, at that point. So think about like workouts when you are feeling relatively fresh, you're doing handstand push-ups, you only do like your heart rate isn't jacked, but like you feel your muscles starting to fill with blood and you feel them starting to fatigue. right? That's a muscular endurance issue and not so much a skill issue, right? So this is a great opportunity to work through that by just transitioning from a couple of handstand push-ups right off the gate to doing some, again, something lower skill, whether that's a dumbbell, like dumbbell seated presses or push-ups to work that muscular endurance and get through as quickly as you can. Again, so 2 strategies there for Bizarro Jackie. Both are awesome. It just depends on your goals and what you're feeling on that day.